Well, debut author Bathabile Masudi was born in the Western Cape and raised in the Eastern Cape. She's penned down and released a book that gives an account of her painful personal journey, and it's titled I Did It For My Father. The story took her over 2 decades to write, but now Bathabile shares with us a story of joy, a 17-year-old that was forced to marry a man that sexually abused her to protect her reverend father. Well, she joins me now in studio to help us unpack this tear-jerking read. Bathabile, good morning and welcome to Morning Lab.
Good morning, Pearl. Thank you so much.
Talk to us about the title of the book, I Did It For My Father. But the father, you've spelled with a double F. Is there any significance to that, and what's the meaning behind that?
Oh, yes. I did it for my father. The big F stands for God. And because I'm from a Christian family, and the small f stands for my own biological father, who was a reverend. So that's why the title.
Talk to us about what the biggest influence was in you writing down something so personal and sharing it with the world to read.
I've come across a lot of challenges, and I've met young people whom I speak to. I met who's gone through more or less the same thing, sexually abused and all that. So I decided that let me rather not keep my story, because I wrote it over the years. I never knew that I will make it a book one day. It was my story. So I decided, what's the use? Let me rather use my story to make a difference, because then it will help many people. And I know that already it has been doing that. So
now, in writing this book, I'm pretty sure that there were lots of times where you relived some of the things that had happened to you. You had to relook and reflect and to a degree, re-suffer the trauma. Take us through that process where you had to relive some of those memories and the things that had happened to you.
Okay, my most painful memory is a chapter where I wrote, my baby dies. I think for me that's my most painful memory, because when I wrote that, when I was writing that, I remember that I think I got depressed the whole day. I could not come out of my room. I relived that day. And I realized that I never really allowed myself to mourn my baby, because I had to wear that mask and not allow people to know. I didn't want to go in there because I felt like I'm going into a hole. So I blocked it. I never really
dealt with it.
I never dealt with it. I didn't want to think about it. Every time it came, I would block it. So that's how I managed to move on from it.
So you just suppressed that heavy emotion?
I suppressed that emotion.
Until you had to be face to face with it and write about it?
Oh, yes. And then that's when I cried that day. I went back to that day. I saw, it was like I'm there again. And I think that's my most painful memory, the losing of my baby, because I jumped from the 3rd floor, 9 months pregnant in labor. I just wanted to end it all. But yeah, it didn't end. It just became worse because I lived and my baby died.
And here you are, this beautiful, strong, accomplished woman that you are today. How has your journey of having experienced all the hardship that you had shaped this woman that is right in front of me today?
Oh, Pearl, it wasn't easy. It was not an easy journey, because, I mean, from a young age, I think I was trained to please people, to please everybody else but myself. So it helped me in a way. I was able to put things away, to shut things away and still put on that face, because I think I was in slavery of self, because I grew up having to be a good girl because my father was a reverend. So I was able to put a face regardless of what I was going through, and I would move on with that. So I think it helped me a lot, and most of all, the Lord was with me all the way.
I'm so glad you don't have to wear that face and that facade anymore. You can just be you and live life to its full. Now, you founded the Love Global movement. I really love this because it's something, that spreads I guess, what the world needs, love. Tell us more about this movement and what would you say it stands for?
Love Global Movement is my heart, is what I live for. I believe that if we could only love, I think we'll overcome a lot of things. If we could, it will help us to forgive people. It will help us to understand where other people are coming from, because some of the people who perpetrate us, it's because they also went through their own things that they never dealt with. So we just became victims of their own demons, stories that they never, So I think love helps, because you just love people regardless, because you understand that maybe they were made to be what they are, So it helps to love. I think for me the greatest remedy is just to love, and it works a lot, because in the movement I work with a lot of people who's gone through a lot of things. So love, I've seen love changing people. For me, I think the most powerful weapon I've seen is love, because I think for me it paralyzes evil. Even when somebody's wearing that thing, that, you just love them.
Oh, absolutely.
And it works.
Bathabile, thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. Thanks so much for coming to chat to us this morning.
Thank you, Paul.
That's Bathabile Masudi. She's been talking to us about the release of her book that takes us on a personal journey of her painful life story that she reflects on in the read she titled, I Did It For My